Hello, my name is Aduke and I'm from the Sister Sister Network. The Sister Sister Network is a global women's empowerment network founded to inspire, educate and empower women across the globe. Today I have with me Gina Balarin, author of The Secret Army, Leadership, Marketing and the Power of People. And we'll be talking about leadership and exploring some of Gina's experiences in our journey. Hi Gina, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
And do you want to just tell our listeners more about yourself and what you've done and some of your leadership experiences, just to start with?
Absolutely. I run a business called Verbalistics and I help people make their words count, make them go mental. And I've had leadership experience in various organizations around the past. Now I lead my own organization. And over the time that I've been there, it's been a real journey trying to figure out, am I allowed to be a leader? Am I good enough as a leader? Am I really taking the people with me on that journey? And how can I help people become leaders in their own right?
Absolutely, wow, that is wonderful. And so in your experience, what are some of the 5 leadership lessons that you've learned that you think are, worth noting and sharing today?
I think the first lesson to learn is that just because you don't have leader in your title, or you don't have CEO, or you don't have director or head of, it doesn't mean that you can't be a leader yourself. Actually, those people who are behind the scenes and yet keeping things going can often demonstrate far more leadership than the people who are at the top of an organization. The second lesson, I think, is that the biggest advice I can give to any female leader is to be the leader that you wish you had. Don't be afraid to throw off the shackles of what you think leadership is and should be. It's actually about drawing around the team that you want to help you support other people. The third lesson, I think, is about making sure that you are able to support your team and then realize that when the chips are down, your team is going to be there to support you. It also comes down to picking the right team, of course, to surround you. That's a very important lesson, being able to choose the right people. And then I think also being able to be honest and upfront with your team. It was a hard lesson for myself to learn, absolutely. It's a hard lesson to learn it's more important to be respected than to be liked.
Wow.
And that was a really big lesson for me personally.
Well, how do you balance that though? Because as human beings, we do want to be liked, and obviously as leaders, we need to be respected. But how do you balance that desire to be liked and that need for respect? How do you balance that?
That's an interesting question because I think a lot of female leaders struggle with the desire to be liked and also the feeling of imposter syndrome. Yes. Sometimes we think that if we are telling people things that make them uncomfortable, we don't have the right to be able to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
The balance really comes down to this. Do you know where you're going? Do you know what you want to achieve? In that case, making decisions is actually far easier. And if your team knows where you're going, what they're able to do is actually see the decisions you make as far more credible because they're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely.
The other thing that is a difference between being liked and being respected is that actually leaders who inspire respect are those who carry with them almost a sense of gravitas,
right?
A sense of calm. And that comes partly from knowing where you're going, but also from trusting yourself.
Absolutely, wow.
And that spreads then to the whole organization and all of the people that you're working with.
Wow. So my next question is, what are some of the key characteristics that you think leaders should possess?
There are several. The first one, I think, is the ability to listen. There's a phrase that says good listeners are often the wisest people. There is a risk that leaders often think they know exactly what they need to do and they don't necessarily use the information that they have available at their disposal to do what they need to do better. And that also comes down to being able to trust the data but also trust your gut. And there's a balance there. There's a balance between being intuitive. As women we have a natural advantage there, but also being able to see what's going on in the rest of the organization. In today's digital age, it is so possible to get number and data and statistics about so many of the things we do. The challenge is to be able to balance both of those so that you get a different perspective on things. One of the other things is to be able to learn. I don't think any leader of any organization deserves to be there if they think that they have all of the answers all of the time. And then lastly, I'd say it's important to be able to see both the big picture, to know where your organization is going, where the people in your organization are going as well, but also to be able to get a sense of all of the levels of detail across an organization.
Yeah.
Now, it's not everyone's strength to be able to see detail at all levels.
Yes.
So the real answer to that problem comes actually when you're able to get other people who you trust to filter the information in the way that you need it.
And it's interesting you say that, because I was going to ask you, how do you balance, validating the data, looking at every level of your organization with not being seen to be micromanaging the people that you've empowered? How do you balance that, trusting people to look after parts of your business, of your organization, but also being in the know? How do you balance that?
There's a really great phrase, trust but validate. Some people would like to say trust in God but lock your car. It's similar with the people who work in your organization. Make sure that you're giving the right balance. Now, of course, every person that's reporting into you or into people who report into you will have their own preferred style.
Yes.
And micromanaging versus leaving them to do their own thing really comes down to the individual themselves and what they want. How do you balance those two? Regular communication that allows people to pass on high-level information and then delegate to them to be able to follow through with the areas that they need to. I found that the most successful leadership experiences I've ever had have been where I can let people give me the information that is required, but then ask the questions that demonstrate in a way that isn't too pushy to say, I know what you're doing, but I need to know that you know what you're doing as well. And if you do, then we can all get along fine and you can go away and do the things you need to do. And we come back to build that vision and effectively know where we're going as an organization.
Oh, great, brilliant. And my final question for you today is, what advice would you give women out there who are intimidated by the idea of leadership?
Oh, it's such a good question and also a tricky one. Now, when I was a child, I remember being called a bossy boots. And it's such a risk that strong women take a step back because they don't believe that they're allowed to be forceful, to be determined.
Absolutely, yes.
But being a bossy boots isn't always a bad thing. Because actually, if you're able to help lead people in the right direction, they will follow. The challenge is, how do you become a leader without being someone who is aggressive or adversarial? I think with more and more women leaders evolving in this world, we're going to come to a place of balance one day where we can all find that ability to stand firm, to be empowered, to understand where we want to go without needing to feel like we have to boss people along the way.
Yes. Or apologize to people when you do something really, really incredible. You always have it behind your, somewhere at the back of your mind that you've offended someone, and so you have to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That was great, but sorry." So while you don't want to be bossy as well, you then can become a bit subservient and just apologetic unnecessarily.
That's a very good point. I love the phrase by Marianne Williamson. It was actually quoted in Nelson Mandela's inaugural address. It wasn't him, it was her. And she wrote this piece which talks about, it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And I love that ability to look at that and think, who am I to be glorious, talented, beautiful, amazing? And her perspective is actually, who are you not to be? The world doesn't serve anyone by playing small, by hiding your light. Instead, manifest that light and just let yourself shine, because everyone deserves to shine.
Wow, thank you very much, Gina. Those were some really powerful insights. And thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and Gina and I will, try to respond to as many as we can. Any parting words, Gina?
I think the last thing I'd like to tell people is, bear in mind that you have a secret army surrounding you all the time. Never be afraid to ask for help. And never be afraid to tell people what you really want, because only by embracing that ability do we actually get a chance to be who we truly are meant to be.
Wow, absolutely. And speaking of secret armies, Gina's book, The Secret Army, Leadership, Marketing and the Power of People, is available for sale on Amazon now. I'll put the link at the bottom of this video, and do get a copy. It's pretty mind-blowing. See you next time.
Bye.